So this is my story about how God gave me a promise when I don't even know what age. I'm sure I was probably 7 or 8, because I don't really remember a time when I didn't know this. So I just have always said to my family, my parents, my friends, at some point I will adopt a child from someone that I know, and this child will definitely be biracial. And so, when they first heard me say that, they kind of laughed and thought that was funny, that no one knows what they're going to do when they have children, and no one knows what children they're going to have. But there was such a sureness about it that I think I convinced everybody that I knew what I was talking about, because I just knew. It was kind of that just deep knowing. And so when I started dating my husband, the first thing, like one of the first serious questions I asked him was, how do you feel about adoption? And he said, why? I mean, I've never really thought that much about it. And I said, well, I need to know. It's important. And he said, yeah, I mean, I definitely think adoption is a great thing. I don't have any problems with it. And I said, well, how do you feel about biracial children? And he was like, I've never even given that a thought. Why would I think of that, And I said, well, I need you to think about it. So he thought for a few minutes, and he said, I don't have a problem with that either. I mean, children are a gift from God, and any child is great. And I said, well, there's something I should tell you. At some point, I know that I will adopt from someone that I know, and they will be biracial. And so he was like, wow, so you just know that? And I said, I do. I mean, I've always known. I can't tell you a time when I didn't know. So we got married 4 years into our marriage. I am, I'm working on a client's hair, and they say they're pregnant. And the time, this girl is 16 years old, and she said, I don't know what my plans are. I don't know if I'll try to keep the child or if I'm going to choose adoption. But instantly, when she told me she was pregnant, the Holy Spirit just confirmed in me that that was my child. I kind of felt just weak, trembly all over, and my heart was beating in my throat, and it was hard to swallow. And I was realizing that the promise that He had planted in my heart and had just been incubating there for years was now, it was time to harvest that promise. And so we began to, talk about her plans, and I didn't mention anything about what I was thinking. But I went home that night, and I told my husband, the child that I've told you about, well, is coming. And so the next morning he said, maybe you should just let her know that we're interested. If it's not God's will, it's not going to work out. But if it is, we should at least say, hey, we're interested in adoption if you choose that. So I did. I called her, and her first words were, well, you may not be interested in this baby. And I said, why would you say that? And she said, well, this baby's going to be biracial. So then I just had such confirmation of knowing that that was for sure my child. And when I told my parents that, this was the child that I had been talking about all these years, there was never a moment when anyone questioned, is that the right decision for you? Is this, do you understand what it's like to bring up a child of a different race, a different culture than your own? Because everyone was so used to the idea that we would do that at some point, because I had always said that would happen. So I just love how God prepared us all mentally for what it would look like to adopt, what it would look like to adopt biracial. That I didn't have this struggle of trying to convince my family members and my friends that that was an okay decision for me, because God had just paved the way for years of me saying that and knowing it, and it just seemed so natural for us to do that. It was just, like I said, it was just a promise that had been planted deep in my heart, had just been incubating over so many years, and now here he was. The promise was going to be fulfilled. And, you know, when he was born, it was like everything that I had been waiting for. God brought about such an amazing journey. Even though I didn't carry that child, I felt like I had carried that child for years. You know, it was like, I've waited for you for years because there was a promise of you. So I kind of feel like I know what Abraham and Sarah felt like, because just knowing that it's coming, not having a clue how that would happen, when, what that necessarily would really look like, other than those specifics, that it would be someone I knew and that it would be a biracial baby. And so that's my story of God bringing about his promises, and that they are true. And he will stand behind every promise he gives us. He'll fulfill it in his time.